As BRICS foreign ministers firm up the agenda for the summit starting on Tuesday, why is the 15th summit so important that everyone is watching what will happen there? Well, 23 countries have formally applied to become new BRICS members. They include Saudi Arabia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Argentina, Indonesia, Egypt and Ethiopia, just to name a few of them. Now, will these countries be admitted this time around, even though BRICS hasn't been able to craft a consensus on the guiding principles, standards, of course, criteria and procedures for the expansion process? Well, let's speak to Kingsley Makhubela, he is an international relations expert and he's a director of Risk Reckon. Thank you so much, Mr. Makhubela, for joining me this evening. Of course, you know, all eyes on South Africa now. BRICS Summit happening very soon on Tuesday. We know that President Cyril Ramaphosa, let's just first start there, will be addressing the nation tonight at 8 p.m. As far as we know, all that we know is that, you know, this speech will be focused on foreign policy, South Africa's foreign policy, and the BRICS Summit, of course. Maybe you can just shed some light and what can South Africans expect tonight from the President's speech and what other topics will he be touching on?
You know, it's good evening. Thank you very much. It's really unprecedented that the President would address the nation on a matter of a single foreign policy variant. Because the President announces the policy of the government at the State of the Nation. That's where he lays out clearly what the government intends to do. Now that the President is addressing the State of the Nation, it has created, he's addressing the nation, it has created a lot of hype and really speculation that may be flying around. But we want to hear what he wants to say, because from the media release that one has seen, he is going to be speaking about foreign policy and the BRICS Summit. So we really don't know. And I'm saying it's unprecedented. But the expectation, of course, is that this BRICS Summit should come up with concrete steps. One of the things that South Africa and the continent would expect is a clear access to a big market that is within the BRICS. That's why you see so many people interested to join the BRICS. The BRICS so far, it's a $28.6 trillion business. So everyone wants a slice of that pie. But there are other political issues. Remember, the summit, it's a meeting of heads of state, and it's a political meeting, essentially. That's where you get political heads to make real decisions that actually, and I think this time around, the expectation is that this decision have serious implication in terms of changing how we relate to each other around the world. It's challenging the hegemony of the IMF and the World Bank, because the BRICS Bank, it's there. It's a force to be reckoned with. So there are a lot of changes that are likely to come out of this meeting that we all expect.
Talking about those changes, the President mentioned, a few days ago, he said there's a tectonic shift, basically, in the geopolitical landscape. What factors do you think he's attributes to the shift, basically? Because we know there are so many other countries now as well, big countries with big economies, also wanting to be part of BRICS. Like you said, everybody wants a slice of the pie now. So maybe let's talk about this tectonic shift that he was talking about.
Well, I think the shift that everyone is talking about is not only South Africa. Ourselves at Risk Reckon, we've done a research sometimes last year, and we released our ebook that speaks about what we call the global order disorder. There's a new world order that is emerging. And this order that is emerging is a multipolar world. For quite some time, since the collapse of the Cold War, there's been a unipolar. The United States has been a sole power around the world, and the United States has abused its hegemony to a large extent, has actually even gone further to weaponize the dollar. And that's why there's an interest to move away from the transaction using the dollar. So this new world order that is emerging, hopefully it won't be a conflictual world order. It will be an order that is based on mutual understanding. But quite honestly, even people in the United States are accepting the fact that the U.S. is a waning power. So there are new powers that are emerging. That's what this shift is happening. It's a real fundamental shift, because this shift is not going to be propelled by wars, by military victories, and so on. It's going to be propelled by economic muscles, by mutual understanding, by accommodating each other, by the poor and the rich countries coexisting together. So this coexistent world that is emerging, it's actually shaking everyone. Ourselves here in South Africa, I mean, for the last few weeks, we've had discussion around AGOA and so on. You can't talk about AGOA when you have a 28 trillion dollar business that is starting to emerge that we need to find. But where we are sitting is not either or. We have to maintain the relationship with the global West, and we have to maintain the relationship with the new emerging world.
And that was going to be my next question, especially talking about AGOA. A lot of people think that we might be alienating ourselves as a country from the West. We have good relations with the West, with Western countries, with the USA. Looking at this BRICS summit, so the West will definitely, all eyes will be on South Africa. And what do you think they will be focused on mostly when it comes to this BRICS summit? And what will they be looking at?
The West is rightfully concerned about what is likely to emerge here. Because the 5 countries now that compose the BRICS countries, these countries, they have a market value of 41% of the global population. So everyone must be worried. 5 countries with that. And a third of the global economy rests with this country. These countries collectively, they have about 4.4 trillion US dollars in foreign reserve. So everyone must be concerned about what decisions are they likely to come up with? What ramifications will these decisions have on the established rules that, particularly in the financial system, that is controlled mainly by the World Bank and the IMF. So they are being shaken, and rightfully so, to think about what is likely to happen. But I think from where we are sitting as the developing world, we really need to intersect with both the developed and the developing world. And the biggest issue I think that we should focus on moving forward is the transfer of technology. We've been for years talking about beneficiation in this country, but there's never been a strategic thrust on what technologies are we going to have to add value to the minerals that we are having here in South Africa and around the continent.
And when we talk about, South Africa and South Africa's position within the BRICS, the BRICS countries, and all these other countries now also wanting to join, we know also that there is, not a unanimous decision on allowing some of these other countries who want to be part of the BRICS nations. So what do you think will that take also a big focus now with the upcoming BRICS meetings? Will they be discussing which countries are now allowed to join our party and which are we not going to allow? And what do you think that process will look like?
The summit is going to be seized with making a decision, and I believe, and I've been reading the news that the senior officials have recommended some form of a criteria to be used for acceptance in the BRICS, and I think it's the right thing to do. You can't just accept people to join the club without working detailed things that will bind you together, because this is a sovereign state with different perceptions about how things should be held. But joining the BRICS should bring some commonalities amongst these countries. And I think once they come up with this criterion, it would help. Certain countries may as well require some transitional period to join the BRICS to become fully fledged members. What I agree with, it's the notion that you cannot have BRICS plus, because it insinuates that the 5 countries are elevated and the rest are not. So you need to look at how we're going to integrate the whole organization. And there must be a discussion moving forward, in my own view, with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is an established international organization. If you look at the key countries that are involved in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, are actually countries that are seeking membership of the BRICS. So you're going to end up with 2 organizations, but at one stage, there must be a discussion about the merger of the 2 organizations.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Makhubela, for your expert opinion tonight. And we will definitely be watching with a very close eye what the President will be talking about tonight. Of course, that address at 8 p.m.